The first words out of her mouth cut deeper than any knife. "You're not welcome here," my daughter-in-law said, her voice cold, her hand resting on my son's arm as if she owned him, as if I had never given him life. I smiled in silence, but inside, my heart was breaking. She thought she had won. She thought I was powerless, old, fragile, and easy to discard. But what she didn't know is that I had kept one secret, tucked away for years, and when I finally placed the papers on the table, her smile vanished. But that's not where the story begins. No, it started months earlier, on the day my son Daniel brought Melissa home for the first time. I remember it so clearly. The house was filled with the smell of roast chicken, and I had polished the silverware my late husband loved so much. I wanted to make a good impression, because that's what mothers do, don't they? We smile, we open our doors, we cook the best meals, hoping the woman our son has chosen will see us as family. Melissa walked in with her perfect nails and designer bag, her perfume so strong it clung to every corner of the house. She smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile that warms you. It was the kind that sizes you up, the kind that says, "I'm here now, and you're in my way." "Thank you for dinner," she said that night, though her eyes were on Daniel the entire time, never once on me. I should have known then. But love makes us blind, doesn't it? A mother's love especially. I wanted Daniel to be happy. I had raised him alone after his father passed, working double shifts at the diner, sewing clothes at night, just to make sure he never went without. His happiness was my reward. So when he announced their engagement, I swallowed the unease in my chest and smiled. It wasn't long after the wedding that the visits began to feel different. At first, they'd come by with smiles and laughter, but soon Melissa stopped making eye contact. She'd walk through my house like it was hers, moving things, commenting on the furniture, whispering to Daniel when she thought I wasn't looking. One afternoon, I caught her running her finger across the wooden frame of the family portrait in the living room. "This place feels so outdated," she muttered, not caring that I was standing right there. Daniel chuckled awkwardly. "Melissa has a point, Mom. Maybe it's time to modernize." I bit my tongue, forcing a smile. "It's been the same since your father and I built it. Every corner has memories." Melissa rolled her eyes, as if memories were dust to be swept away. It didn't stop there. She began to limit Daniel's visits, always with an excuse. Work was too busy. They were traveling. The baby needed rest. Soon, weeks passed without a single knock on my door. And when they did come, Melissa made sure to remind me of my place. She'd take over my kitchen, criticize my cooking, tell me I should take it easy, and leave things to the younger ones. I remember one particular Sunday. I had spent hours baking Daniel's favorite pie, the one his father used to love. When I placed it on the table, Melissa laughed lightly. "Oh, Daniel, you shouldn't eat too much of that. Remember your cholesterol." Daniel put his fork down immediately, looking at her instead of me. I felt invisible, like a shadow in my own home. But the worst came on that evening I will never forget. They had just returned from a weekend getaway, and I was so happy to see them, to hear about their trip. I opened the door with a smile, only for Melissa's words to slice through the air like a knife. "You're not welcome here," she said. Just like that. No hesitation. Daniel stood beside her, shifting uncomfortably, but he didn't speak. His silence hurt more than her words ever could. My lips trembled, but I forced them into a smile. "Of course," I whispered. "If that's what you want." Melissa smirked, tightening her grip on Daniel's arm. "It's not about what we want. It's about what's best. You can't keep clinging to the past. You need to understand, you don't belong here anymore." I nodded slowly, my hands gripping the edge of the door frame so hard I thought I might splinter the wood. Inside, my heart screamed. But outside, I remained calm. Because that's what I do. I stay quiet. I endure. And when the time comes, I act. That night, alone in the silence of my house, I let the tears fall. Not because of Melissa's cruelty, but because of Daniel's silence. My son, the boy I had carried, nursed, sacrificed for, had chosen not to defend me. I walked into my bedroom, opened the old cedar chest at the foot of my bed, and pulled out the envelope I had hidden for years. I traced my fingers over the papers inside, the very ones James and I had prepared before he passed. Melissa thought I had nothing. Daniel thought I was powerless. But the truth was right there, sealed in ink and signatures. I closed the chest, wiped my tears, and whispered into the dark, "One day you'll see. One day you'll understand." And that day came sooner than they expected. The days after Melissa told me I wasn't welcome felt colder than any winter I had ever known. The air in my house seemed heavier, the walls quieter, as though even the pictures on the walls had heard her words and turned their backs on me. I kept myself busy. I always had. Laundry, gardening, cooking meals for one. But there's a difference between choosing to be alone and being forced into loneliness by the people you love most. Every sound of the clock ticking felt like a reminder. I was no longer needed. Daniel didn't call. Not that week. Not the week after. It wasn't until the third week that my phone lit up with his name. My hands trembled as I picked up, my heart leaping with foolish hope. "Daniel?" I said, trying to steady my voice. "Hi, Mom," he said, but his voice was distant, distracted. "Melissa and I were wondering, would you mind if we hosted Thanksgiving at our place this year?" I smiled faintly, though he couldn't see me. "Of course, sweetheart. That sounds lovely." Melissa's voice echoed faintly in the background. "And make sure she knows not to bring anything. We don't need old-fashioned dishes cluttering the table." I bit my lip. "I heard her," I whispered. Daniel didn't respond. He just sighed. "It'll be good for everyone. We'll see you then." The line went dead. That Thanksgiving, I arrived at their house with only a store-bought pie. My hands felt empty without the dishes I had once been proud to make. Melissa greeted me with a thin smile, her eyes sweeping over me as if checking for contraband. "You made it," she said flatly, stepping aside. Inside, the table gleamed with silverware and crystal glasses. Guests laughed, glasses clinked, and Melissa moved around the room like a queen in her castle. I sat quietly in the corner, watching Daniel laugh with her family, his arm around her waist. When dinner was served, I noticed there was no place card for me. I slipped into a seat at the end of the table unnoticed, like a shadow. Halfway through the meal, Melissa raised her glass. "To new beginnings," she said, smiling at her parents. "And to family that truly belongs." Her eyes flicked toward me as she said it. A subtle dagger, sharp enough to pierce. No one else seemed to notice. Not even Daniel. I left early that night, slipping out before dessert, my store-bought pie untouched on the counter. When I arrived home, I sat at the kitchen table in the dark, the silence pressing down on me. Memories came flooding back, Daniel as a boy, his scraped knees, his school recitals, the nights I stayed up sewing costumes, the mornings I skipped meals so he could have more on his plate. I had given him everything, and now I was nothing to him. But nothing has a way of becoming something when you least expect it. One Sunday afternoon, Daniel came over without Melissa. I was surprised to see him, and for a fleeting moment, hope bloomed in my chest. "Daniel," I said, opening the door wide. "Come in." He stepped inside, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. He sat at the kitchen table, his hands clasped tightly together. "Mom," he began, "Melissa and we've been talking. The house, it's too much for you. The upkeep, the bills, everything. It's not safe for you to live here alone anymore." I felt my stomach twist. "And what do you suggest?" He hesitated. "We found a place. A retirement community. It's nice, gardens, activities, full staff. You'd have people around, you wouldn't be alone." I laughed bitterly. Not alone? Surrounded by strangers, stripped of my home, my memories? That's not living, Daniel. That's waiting to die. His face tightened. "It's what's best, Mom." I stared at him, my eyes burning. "Best for who?" He didn't answer. When he left, I walked straight to the cedar chest. My hands shook as I pulled out the envelope, sliding the papers across the table in front of me. I stared at them for a long time, the ink sharp and unyielding. This house was mine. Legally. Irrevocably. James had made sure of that before he died. We had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to ever let it slip into someone else's hands. But I didn't show Daniel. Not yet. Timing is everything, and Melissa needed to see it with her own eyes. The weeks that followed grew colder. Melissa stopped calling altogether. When I did see them, she would speak as though I wasn't in the room, her words slicing through me like invisible blades. One evening, I overheard them on the porch. They didn't know I was near the window. "She'll agree eventually," Melissa was saying. "We'll get the house. We just have to be patient." "And if she doesn't?" Daniel asked. Melissa laughed softly. "Then we'll make her." I pressed my hand to my mouth to stifle the sob that rose in my throat. My own son. My only child. Planning with his wife to take everything I had. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room, the papers spread out before me like a shield. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Melissa's smirk, Daniel's silence. I thought of leaving, packing a bag, walking away, letting them have it all. But then I remembered James. His voice, steady and strong, saying, "This house is our legacy. Don't let anyone take it from you." I couldn't walk away. Not this time. The breaking point came at Christmas. They invited me over, though I suspect it was more out of obligation than love. The house glittered with lights, the tree dripping with ornaments, the air filled with laughter. I brought a small gift for Daniel, a framed photo of him as a boy, sitting on James's shoulders at the county fair. I wrapped it carefully, tied with a ribbon. When he opened it, Melissa laughed. "Really? An old photo? That's what you bring." Daniel said nothing. He set the frame aside, his smile forced. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, but I kept quiet. Later that night, Melissa cornered me in the kitchen. Her voice was low, but sharp enough to cut. "You need to face reality," she said. "You're not part of this family anymore. You're just in the way. The sooner you accept that, the easier it will be for everyone." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't see power. I saw greed. I smiled faintly. "We'll see," I whispered. Because I knew what she didn't. And soon, everyone else would too. After that Christmas night, when Melissa told me to face reality, something inside me shifted. For weeks, I had carried her words like chains, letting them weigh me down, letting them dictate who I was. But that evening, in the quiet of their kitchen, when she looked at me with those cold eyes and told me I was in the way, I realized something important. She was wrong. I wasn't in the way. This was my house, my family, my life. And if she wanted to erase me, she would have to fight harder than she ever imagined. But I didn't show my hand yet. No, I stayed quiet, because silence is a weapon most people don't know how to fight. The new year came, cold and bitter. Snow piled up on the sidewalk outside my home, the roses in my garden long gone, their stems brittle under frost. Inside, I kept warm by the fire, the papers tucked safely inside my cedar chest. Every time I opened it, every time I traced my fingers over James's signature, I felt him beside me, steadying me, telling me to hold on. But Melissa wasn't done. No, she was just getting started. It was late January when Daniel came again, this time with Melissa at his side. They didn't call ahead. They just showed up, letting themselves in as though they owned the place. "Mom," Daniel said, his tone rehearsed, "we need to talk." Melissa's eyes scanned the living room, her gaze landing on the family portrait again. She smirked faintly. I folded my hands in my lap. "I'm listening." Daniel sat across from me, leaning forward. "It's time we make some decisions. You can't live here anymore. It's not safe. The stairs, the maintenance, it's too much." I tilted my head. "And where exactly do you expect me to go?" Melissa stepped in before he could answer. "We've already arranged a place for you. A retirement home. It's lovely, modern rooms, nurses on call, activities for seniors. You'll be better off there." Her words dripped with false sweetness. I smiled faintly. "And what happens to my home while I'm away?" Melissa's smirk widened. "We'll take care of it. Renovations, updates, finally bring it into this century. It's what Daniel would want." Daniel nodded reluctantly, avoiding my eyes. I let the silence stretch, my fingers tightening around the armrest of my chair. "I see," I said softly. "So you've already made all the decisions without me." Melissa shrugged. "We're just trying to do what's best." "Best for who?" I asked quietly. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, but Melissa didn't flinch. "Pack your things," she said. "We'll move you in by the end of the month." For a moment, I wanted to scream, to stand, to throw them both out of my house, to wave the papers in their faces and watch the color drain from Melissa's cheeks. But instead, I simply smiled. "If that's what you think is best," I whispered. Melissa's smile faltered, just slightly. She wasn't expecting compliance. She thrived on conflict, on resistance, on proving she could win. My silence unsettled her. When they left, I walked to my bedroom and pulled out the envelope once more. I sat on the bed, the papers spread before me, my heart pounding. Soon, I thought. Not yet, but soon. Weeks passed, and the tension grew thicker. Melissa began showing up uninvited, walking through the rooms as if taking inventory. One afternoon, I caught her in my study, rifling through drawers. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice calm though my blood boiled. She jumped, then straightened. "Just cleaning up. You really should start downsizing." I didn't argue. I just smiled. But inside, I was marking every insult, every trespass. Then came Daniel's birthday. Melissa insisted on hosting it at my house, claiming it would be easier. I knew the truth. She wanted to show off, to invite her friends into what she already thought of as hers. The day arrived, the house filled with people I barely knew. Laughter echoed through the halls, glasses clinked, and Melissa floated from guest to guest, her voice carrying above the noise. I stayed in the kitchen, watching from the doorway as she draped herself on Daniel's arm. At one point, I heard her speaking to a group of her friends. "It's just a matter of time," she said with a laugh. "The house will be ours soon. Honestly, it's falling apart anyway. We'll get the whole thing, new floors, new walls, everything. Daniel deserves better than this old place." My chest tightened. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about erasing every memory James and I had built in these walls. Later that evening, as everyone gathered in the living room, Melissa raised a glass. "To Daniel," she said, smiling proudly. "To new beginnings and to the future we're building together." Everyone cheered. Glasses clinked. And then she looked at me, her smile sharp as glass. "And to letting go of the past." The room erupted in laughter, though no one understood the hidden barb in her words. No one but me. I excused myself quietly, slipping into my bedroom. I opened the cedar chest, my hands steady now. I pulled out the envelope, tucked it under my arm, and returned to the living room. Melissa's eyes caught the movement, her smile faltering. "What's that?" she asked, her tone sharp. I smiled faintly. "Just something I thought I should share." Daniel frowned. "Mom, what are you doing?" But I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I placed the envelope on the coffee table, right in the center, where everyone could see. The chatter quieted, eyes turning toward me. Melissa's smirk wavered, a flicker of unease crossing her face. I folded my hands calmly. For years, I've stayed silent. I've endured words meant to cut, actions meant to erase me. But sometimes silence carries power. And sometimes, the truth waits for the right moment. Melissa reached for the envelope, her hands eager, almost greedy. I leaned back, my eyes steady. "Go on," I said softly. "Open it." Her fingers hesitated on the seal, her smile tightening. The room was silent, the tension thick enough to choke. And as Melissa tore the envelope open, I saw it, the first crack in her perfect facade. Melissa's manicured fingers trembled slightly as she tore open the envelope. I watched her face carefully, the way her confident smirk faltered with every line her eyes scanned. The room had fallen into an uneasy silence. Guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing something was unraveling that they were never meant to witness. Daniel leaned in. "What is it?" he asked, his voice tight, uncertain. Melissa's lips parted, but no words came. Her eyes started toward me, wide now, the arrogance drained from them. I took the papers from her trembling hand and held them up for everyone to see. "This house," I said, my voice steady and strong, "is mine. Every brick, every wall, every memory. James and I made sure of that before he passed. The deed, the will, it all belongs to me. Legally, irrevocably. No one can take it away." Gasps rippled through the room. Daniel's friends exchanged awkward glances. Melissa's parents shifted in their seats. And Melissa, Her smile was gone, replaced by a pale, stunned expression that made her look like a child caught in a lie. "Why you can't do this?" she stammered, her voice cracking. "It's not fair." I laughed, but it wasn't cruel, it was tired, bitter. Fair? Was it fair when you told me I wasn't welcome in my own home? Was it fair when you plotted behind my back, whispering about renovations and ownership as if I were already gone? You built your plans on greed, Melissa. But this house was built on love. And love doesn't crumble so easily. Daniel's face reddened. "Mom, please, you should have told me." I cut him off, my eyes sharp. "Told you?" "Daniel, I tried to tell you in 1,000 ways. Every meal I cooked, every story I shared, every moment I stayed silent when Melissa mocked me. I thought you'd remember who I was to you. I thought you'd defend me. But you stayed quiet. You let her speak for you." He lowered his gaze, shame creeping into his features. Melissa, desperate now, snatched the papers back. "There has to be a mistake," she snapped. "We've invested time, money. This house should be ours." I stood then, my knees steady beneath me, my voice rising over the hush of the room. "You can't buy legacy. You can't erase sacrifice with designer shoes and fancy words. This house is my story. And you, Melissa, you were only ever a visitor." The weight of my words settled heavy over the gathering. One by one, Daniel's friends excused themselves, their polite goodbyes tinged with discomfort. Soon, only the three of us remained in the living room. Melissa rounded on Daniel, her voice shrill. "Say something. Do something." But Daniel said nothing. His eyes were on me now, filled with something I hadn't seen in years: remorse. "Mom," he whispered, his voice breaking. I'm sorry." For a moment, I wanted to take that apology and hold it close. But then I remembered the nights I cried alone, the silence when I needed him most, the way he let Melissa's words cut me deeper than any blade. I shook my head. "Sorry doesn't erase betrayal, Daniel. Sorry doesn't give back the years I spent invisible in my own home." Melissa scoffed, furious. "You think you've won? You're just an old woman clinging to the past. Daniel doesn't need you, he has me." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I felt no anger. Only pity. "One day, Melissa, you'll understand that greed leaves you with nothing. And when that day comes, I hope you remember this moment." She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. Daniel lingered, his shoulders heavy, his eyes wet. "Do you hate me?" he asked softly. I closed my eyes, letting the question hang in the air. When I opened them again, my voice was steady. "I don't hate you, Daniel. I pity you. Because you let love slip through your fingers. You let your wife's voice drown out your mother's. And now you'll live with that choice." He tried to speak, but I turned away. "Leave, Daniel. Go after your wife. You've made your bed, now lie in it." He hesitated, then walked out, the door closing softly behind him. The silence that followed was the kind that doesn't hurt, it heals. For the first time in years, I felt strong. Whole. I walked through the house, touching the walls, the photos, the worn wooden banister James had polished himself. Every corner whispered our story back to me, and I knew, deep in my bones, that I had done the right thing. That night, I brewed a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the snow fall gently over the garden. I thought of James, of the promises we made, of the sacrifices that had carried me to this moment. And though my heart still ached for Daniel, though the wound of his betrayal would take time to heal, I knew this. I mattered. My life, my story, my worth, they were not defined by anyone else's greed or cruelty. I was not invisible. I was still here. And this house, my house, would remain mine until the end. My dear friends, if this story touched you, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Have you ever felt unwanted in your own family, only to find your strength when you least expected it? I'd love to hear your story. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you never miss another chapter. Every day, we share real emotions, brave women, and stories that remind us you are not alone.